Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of Overview and Scrutiny. I will start with apologies.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Nielsen.
Any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interests and other disclosable interests? Unlikely, but no. Right. Has everybody had a look at the minutes of the previous meeting? Has anybody got any questions or queries or want to raise anything? Nope. Okay. We will take that as them being accepted then, and I will sign them afterwards. Right, Chair's announcements. The only thing I've got to say is that Councillor Rouse and Councillor Michael have both resigned from the committee, and Councillor Wells has, although he's turned up.
I'm here as an observer, Chair.
Right, fine. This is the last meeting of this particular council year, and new appointments will be made at the annual council next week. Okay, I don't think we have any public participation scheduled, so we can go straight on to item 6, which is the Community Safety Partnership. Update on the work of that particular operation, and I wondered if anybody would like to talk about that. Sorry, Jen.
That's okay. I'm happy to speak to the paper briefly if people are happy. I won't go through it in detail, and then if Councillor Watkins would like to add anything that I've missed. So very briefly, committee, this is an annual update on the Community Safety Partnership, which we're required to look at as part of the community safety legislation. The District Council is one of a number of named partners in legislation who are required to meet as a community safety partnership, to form an action plan and to work together to prevent crime and antisocial behaviour. You'll see from the paper that we also have a number of other statutory responsibilities that are sort of increasingly being added on with new legislation, if I can say that. So we have a responsibility, for example, to carry out reviews of domestic abuse related deaths, to carry out antisocial behaviour reviews, so that's often known as the community trigger, where a resident may feel that partners have not responded in an appropriate way to repeated reports of antisocial behaviour. And we also have an additional statutory responsibility to prevent serious violence as well. So that's a relatively recently added responsibility. The paper covers some information on what we have delivered in the last year. What I would say is that that's not an exhaustive summary of what we've delivered. As I mentioned, we are one of several partners, and so what we've tried to do is to focus where our activity has had a direct benefit for Malvern Hills residents. As you can imagine, we are a South Worcestershire CSP, and therefore we also deliver in Worcester City and in Wychavon as well. But we felt we would focus here in this paper on Malvern Hills residents. And then just touching on our plans for the coming years. So we've recently received our latest strategic assessment from the police analysts, and that has helped us to identify our priorities as a CSP, which are set out in 3.44. So these have not changed a great deal, so they are generally consistently our priorities, and bear in mind this is for the whole of South Worcestershire, so some of them will be more or less relevant for Malvern Hills, but those are domestic burglary, domestic abuse, vulnerability to exploitation, the nighttime economy, hate crime, antisocial behaviour and road safety. So those are the areas that our action plan, which we'll be agreeing as a partnership in June, will be focused on. And we have a budget provided by the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner to support that activity, but a lot of that activity also is delivered by statutory and non-statutory partners. So Platform, actually Claire here this evening, also provide quite a lot of input into the delivery of that as well. And then lastly, we've tried to draw attention to how Malvern Hills District Council as an individual organisation contributes to community safety aims and ambitions, and how our council plan talks to the CSP plan. So there's kind of a broader picture within the CSP plan, but there are some very clear areas within the council plan as well where community safety priorities are priorities for this organisation itself. So Jenny, I don't know if you want to add anything at all?
Just thank you, Jen, for introduction. And just to add, just to reinforce the last point about our priorities, I do very much see that we should learn as we go. And as we speak, we've got some of the youth council visiting the offices across the road, because it's important that whilst we set out our priorities, that we do continue to listen to our residents, and particularly young people who, face a whole number of challenges that I don't claim to always understand and we need to know more about. So I think, whilst we can set this out, there is also that room through our community work, through us as members and through work as a council generally, to make sure that we are adjusting and addressing needs as we go to. So I just wanted to reinforce that point, but happy with Jen to take any questions.
Right. Okay. Would you like to ask Jen a question?
Hello. It's not a question, actually. It's a thank you for what your team do. It's a very sensitive area, and projects that you've been doing really have made a difference. And I know the autistic children with the car seat belt, that's been a great success. The Cut It Out has been working well, and other issues around domestic abuse, which is a very difficult area. So I want to thank both Jennies and your team, because I know just how hard your work is. Thank you.
Anybody else? David.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This is only really a question to do with smart water and the very successfully launched smart water in Kemsey. What happens when people leave and new people come in? Can they still apply?
I believe so, yes. So I believe that there is a process by which you can do that. So if for example you move into a property and there is the sign on the door, but you're not sort of registered yourself because you're a new resident, you can apply via the Smart Water website. However, I'm not absolutely certain, so I'll find out the process by which you would do that and I'll share it through the chair.
One thing I was going to ask was whether we could have a list of telephone numbers for contacts for some of the things that we might want to contact directly, rather than have to go through you, because it'd make it easier, wouldn't it?
So we can certainly provide the sort of team numbers for various different sort of thematic issues, and also provide some information about which officers are the leads for certain areas. So certainly Rob Rich as the team manager is a first port of call, but for example Faye, she's not Faye Allen Carter because she's recently married and I'm trying to remember Faye's married surname, but Faye for example is our lead around domestic abuse, but we can certainly provide a bit more information through Vic's Roundup on who best to contact. Often the phone numbers might be a team phone number so that it will always be answered by someone on duty.
That sounds like an idea. Okay, is there anything else on that particular issue? Sorry, John, Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to, don't want to sound negative, but can I ask you what you would see as the areas that, in a sense, have been more frustrating than you would want, the things that are not quite happening at the pace that you'd like to see happen? What are the difficult areas that you struggle to make progress on? Sorry if it sounds negative.
No, it's a good question, and I was just reflecting on that. I think some of the areas, although I think the council has done a lot around domestic abuse, and thank you, Councillor Wild, for your comments on that. Some of the complexities around delivering domestic homicide reviews, it's an expensive and complicated process. It's the right thing to do, and we should do it. It's also a legislative requirement, but being able to give that the attention it deserves, but also make sure that the recommendations are embedded and we don't necessarily keep seeing the same recommendations. Similar to safeguarding reviews, you see a lot of the same recommendations. And I also think in that area we are seeing rising demand for services and not rising resources to be able to meet that. So I think that's a frustration. So that'd probably be the thing. I don't know, Jenny, if there's anything else you'd add.
Will the empty homes space officer be appointed soon? Do you know?
Interviews took place last week, so we hope to be able to make an announcement shortly.
Huzzah!
And you know, although that's seen as a housing intervention, it also absolutely has an impact on antisocial behaviour, and yeah.
That is really good news. Okay. Right. We now have a presentation, I believe, from our friends at Platform Housing, and then there will be a question and answer session afterwards, if that's okay. So can I hand over to the team, Steve Eves, Lisa Fairley, Claire Greensall, and Mark Mail, although... Mark, you are there now. Right, okay. Fantastic.
Hello, thank you very much for that introduction. It's great to be here, Chair. I do recognise some faces from a few years ago when we were last here. So we're going to take you through some slides, and before we do, I'm Lisa.
I'm Steve Eves.
And I'm Mark Mail.
Yeah, so I'm
Claire.
the Director of Housing Operations at Platform. Steve is?
I'm a Director of Strategic Assets and Regeneration.
Mark.
And I'm Operations Director for our repairs service.
So I'll take you through some slides. If you do want to ask anything as we go through, because there's quite a lot, then please don't hesitate to just stop us. I'm more than happy to take questions as we go. So the first slide that I'll take you through just gives you a flavour of our strategic goals. These are our current strategic goals. We are in the process of working on a new strategy that will take us from 2026 to 2031. But as you can see, they're centred around people, places and platform. They're to work with customers to improve what we do. So we do quite a lot of work with our customers around co-creation and also consultation, feedback, service delivery, customer journey mapping, to promote a workplace that motivates everyone to bring their best, to provide safe, well-maintained homes and communities, to deliver our platform standard for our homes, that's our new homes and our existing homes, to embed our long-term ESG plans, to utilise insights through accurate, robust and secure data, and to remain financially strong. Our profile within the district of Malvern Hills is that we've got over 3,500 general needs homes. We've got a number of rooms that people rent, and that's usually in partnership with other stakeholders here in the area. We've got 440 shared ownership homes, 107 leasehold homes, and we also have some specialist housing, which is for young people and for older people. Moving on to our contact centre, which we call Platform Hub, our performance. So in that period between April 24 to the 31st of March 2025, we received, as you can see, a huge number of calls. And against our service level, we achieved 94.78%. And of that, we did callback. So historically, people have asked if they didn't want to wait for a callback. And our average call wait time has improved hugely over a relatively sustained period, and currently stands at 1 minute 38 seconds. And we feel that that's validated because we don't get as complaints about call wait times in the way that we used to historically, and we don't get counsellor contact and inquiries about that either. So we're happy with that. Total time to process is the length of time we speak to customers about whatever their issue is or their concern is, and digital contacts are through our portal or through email. And as you can see, we get a lot of those. So the hub manages all the customer contact, and it's a multi-channel contact centre, which means that we're not going to drive people into using digital communication with us. We will always have a phone service, and we will have an email service as well as a self-service through our customer portal. So we're trying to meet the needs of all of our communities and our customers who are very diverse in the way that they want to engage with us. I'm sure you all know that we've had for quite a long time since COVID a wellbeing fund, and this is a fund that we are really proud of. It enables us to do some good work with our customers, for our customers in times of hardship, and those times of hardship are still ongoing, as you know. We did some really great work when the pension credit was cut. We reached out to all of our customers to offer them support specifically around that. But the total value, as you can see, for the year period to the end of March was a little over 80,000 that we were able to assist, and that worked out to £258 per customer. And the things that we were spending providing that funding for was essential living costs, food, household goods, energy support, white goods, some furniture and beds for those people who couldn't afford that outlay and cost, and some combined, so that was the top two areas combined as well. And the total number of awards that we made were 488, and we welcome those referrals. I think most platform customers now know that that is available to them. And you know, if you do know anybody that hasn't taken advantage of that, then please do signpost them to our website or signpost them to their neighbourhood officer who can offer support and assistance. We have a successful tenancies team, and their purpose is really to support our customers to make sure that they're maximising the opportunities to receive the benefits that they're eligible for. So you can see in Malvern the number of referrals was quite high, 898 people were referred, and the outcomes to the customers, that's money in their pocket, was 770,000, a little over. So that's a lot of money for those customers to have. So we're really proud of that work as well in maximising income. We want to sustain tenancies so that people don't fall into rent arrears as well. And also that customers can self-refer or be referred. Again, if you know anybody that would benefit from that, please don't hesitate to reach out and get in touch with us. So we do, part of the successful tenancies team, they'll do an income and expenditure review. They'll look at a benefit review to make sure people are in receipt of all the benefits. They'll support with applications and appeals, and they'll also access other grants, funds and schemes. So for example, water authorities do offer funding for people who are in hardship for paying their water bills and other things. So we will be in touch with them to maximise those opportunities for customers. We have a really robust, throughout Worcestershire actually, community engagement and investment programme. We have Platform Community Chest. Community Chest is managed by involved customers, and we have awards that are made every year for them to manage, and they will assess different applications. So we, in 24-25, made 14 awards, and as you can see, £14,726 went within the area. And within this year, we've already awarded 2,500 in this financial year. So in terms of community kindness, you may see that we do publicise that because we think it's important to celebrate the benefit that brings to our customers and to those community groups. We did award 6,200 to 15 groups in 24-25. We held 34 community events, 89 drop-in sessions, 25 community walkabouts, neighbourhood walkabouts. We held one community conversation roadshow. That's where we take our service out into our communities, and there was one High Sheriff Award. And the square areas just talk about some of the things that we've done in a little bit more detail. So shows the diversity of the different opportunities we have. We're involved with the St Mary's Church, the Food Bank, Kemsey School, Upton Baptist Church, Kemsey Youth Hub, Citizens Advice, Men's Craft and Chat. So a very diverse range of different engagement opportunities that people can come and join in. We have quite an active number of platform customers who are involved in our customer involvement. So we have 15 community reps. Those are people living in communities, our eyes and ears in those communities, who are feeding back on the service that we are delivering, and also feeding back on behalf of other customers if they want to. We meet online, and we also provide training, in-depth training to those community reps, and also we engage with them in the communities as well. So our colleagues will be directly contacting community reps to make sure that they are supported in the work that they do, and we get that valuable insight and feedback, and we fix things as quickly as we can. We have a customer sounding board. This is a group of customers across platforms, whole geography, who are happy to give their time and their expertise in providing feedback and consultation, and also at times getting involved in quite a sample of different opportunities. For example, they may sit on recruitment panels. So we have platform customers who are feeding in to customer journey mapping. We might do a boot camp regarding antisocial behaviour. So people have a range of different engagement opportunities, and they can decide what they want to be involved in. And it's their choice as to what they do participate in. We have two digital champions. I'm sure you're all well aware of the Digital for Everyone scheme that we have, and are very proactive here in Malvern. So we have two digital champions. These are customers who work alongside our digital engagement officers, who go out and support customers who are digitally excluded to become more confident in the way in which they can get online. And sometimes that's just things like, it might be practical things like household accounts, but also it might be just getting in touch with people through Facebook that they've not spoken to for donkey's years, and are really energised by that. We have one complaint reviewer. All of platform complaints are sent out to customers to review before they're issued out to the people that have complained to us, to make sure that they feel that those letters are appropriate, that cover all the relevant points. They are anonymised, but they are signed off. And we also have two Scrutiny panel members. So Scrutiny is a really important area of the work that we do. The Scrutiny panel are very highly trained and supported, and they do assignments. So for example, at the moment they're doing an assignment on antisocial behaviour. They're speaking to lots and lots of platform colleagues. They're reviewing our policies to make sure that they are fit for purpose and meeting the needs of customers. And also they did one previously on complaints. So the one for the Scrutiny panel, we've recently engaged with a number of platform customers, including some people from the foyer, about the antisocial behaviour letters that we send, taking from them insight and feedback about the communication styles, the way the letters are set out, the tone of voice. And the Scrutiny panel have had some oversight of that as well, or will be having. So we're pleased with that, and it's really presented a different view of the way in which we've sent letters out. We've taken the insight and we've actually used AI to craft the letters. So it's a really interesting project where it has truly been a co-creation piece with our customers about what do they want those letters to look like, what do they want them to, what emotion do they want, what sentiment do they want as well. Just looking further at community engagement investment, we have invested in the Pickersley Community Garden. We've supported with food poverty, digital inclusion, and also loan shark awareness, raising awareness of loan sharks who are operating everywhere and exploiting people. And some brilliant stakeholder work's gone on with different partners within Malvern. I'm sure you're aware as well, we're really proud of the partnership that we have with Malvern Hills District Council, who funded Platform to host two part-time community builders who have done tremendous work. Ali's been working to empower communities in Upton, Powick, Malvern, Lincoln, Pixley. In Upton, we supported the Up Together project, and also some work with the Help Centre at Malvern, platform-led help centre at Malvern Town FC, which was recognised by the High Sheriff Award. And Elaine's been focusing on the Ukrainian community within the district, and her role has been extended for a further year, which we're really pleased to see happen. And thank you so much to the council for funding that. It's been a fabulous partnership approach. Moved on. I do apologise. I'm trying to multitask. Thank you. So, neighbourhood collaborations. We've done 25 walkabouts, and we invite lots and lots of community stakeholders. And thank you to all of the councillors that are so committed to joining us on those walkabouts, along with other statutory authorities. And we've also done monthly MAT-G meetings. We do liaison meetings with the local police. We're engaged with the CST. and we're there every week at the Hope Centre at Malvern Town Football Club. It's just a flavour of the activities, but I would say that without the collaborative work that we do with the voluntary and the statutory agencies here in Malvern, we would not be able to deliver the services that we do, and we really value that, and we've got some really strong relationships. A little bit about the foyer, and again, the foyer, as I'm sure you know, was really struggling, and we all came together in solution mode to try and find a way to sustain the foyer. So the foyer is an amazing project, and I'm sure you're all aware of where the foyer is, what it does, and it really does change lives. So we've got a safe and secure home for up to 21 young people who are homeless or threatened with homelessness. Very vulnerable people with some complex needs at times. Got an echo, sorry. So it's a 24/7 service for people aged 16 to 21 and up to 25 if you're a care leaver. And the referrals come from the county and also from the district councils. And we've got some supported accommodation, some step-up dispersed accommodation at Summers Park, and funding from yourselves in partnership with Platform, and also supplemented by social funding from Travis Perkins, who we work very closely with and is one of our key contractors. So we're very pleased to see the scheme continue, and hopefully it will continue for a long time. Some data around formal complaints, and I'll leave you to I'm not going to go into this in a lot of details, but you can see. Apologies, it's not playing ball with me. So formal complaints. Again, you've got the data. Hopefully, you've had time to scrutinise that ahead of us arriving today. But you can see things that are, the root causes for some of those complaints, cases by date and cases by department. And then another slide on overall customer satisfaction, which you can see is above our target at 82.9%. So we're never resting on our laurels, and we do break it down over a number of different targets, which you can see on the left-hand column. So 8x8 is our call service. You can see repairs, the customer portal feedback, gas servicing, antisocial behaviour, satisfaction, new customer satisfaction, and viewing and sign-up satisfaction. You can see a breakdown of some of those responses by channel and satisfaction by channel as well. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Mark now, who's going to pick up on repair satisfaction.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lisa. So just going into a bit more detail on the repair satisfaction, overall on the repairs delivered to date, it's 89.1% satisfaction rate, and that was based off 1,055 customers responding to us. We sent 3,525 requests for a response out to those customers, and generally what we've seen is we're just sitting slightly below our target of 92% across the business. When we go into obviously responsive repairs completions, when we talked about our number of repairs, we've delivered 15,000 repairs across our Malvern Hills area, with an average time of 42.57 days to deliver each one of those repairs. And just to put a bit of context to that, that is all repairs, so that'll take it from an emergency all the way through to a more complex repair that could take 90 plus days to deliver. So that is an average of all of them. What we are working towards is moving and doing a split between our more complex, more advanced works and our regular day-to-day to give you a bit more of a metric on, are we turning up to do those smaller repairs, those quick repairs from a customer basis perspective. But generally, our focus is absolutely on efficiency, and right first time is an absolute key metric for us of making sure that what we promise the customer, we turn up at the appointment that has been delivered and we deliver that repair. And I'm pleased to say that 90% of our repairs are delivered right first time. The next slide was just talking about the split of demand. So this is looking at logged jobs against all the customers within the Malvern Hills area. And as you can see, we've seen a market uplift in the demand for customer and our services across repairs. And we are seeing that. We're seeing a slight drop off coming into the early summer months now. But we see that this will continue to be at a higher level compared to last previous year. No surprises on the next slide in relation to our core areas of where we're doing repairs is plumbing, carpentry and electrical. We do obviously do a small amount of groundworks, and the groundworks and plasterwork and finishes are the ones where they're more complex and the larger works that take longer to deliver. And just the last slide was just really to pick up our plans for the future. So we are working toward a new operating model within property care, and that's our in-house delivery team. And our absolute focus is to bring ourselves closer to the customer. So we are going to be focusing on the localities model, but not just our overall localities as 7, which is the locality Malvern Hill sits in, but break that down into a much smaller granular area to connect people on the ground with our customers, so we become a large organisation but delivering a very local service to our customers. And that is really just to make sure that we're getting our repairs right, but also when we get into those more complex repairs, we're connecting all the right people together to get it across the line, but also making sure we're updating customers along that repair journey. Because some of our repairs do become more complex and we have to involve multiple different trades or different stakeholders to get them done. So we need to make sure we take the customer with us. And absolutely that's our focus, and our new operating model is to really focus on the customer and make sure we're getting everything right for that customer from beginning to end. And as part of that, we talked about repair satisfaction. At the moment, we base our repair satisfaction off a completed repair. So how was that for the customer? In the future, what we're going to be focusing on is looking at the repairs journey from beginning to end, from taking that initial call from the customer from a repair perspective to how was the appointment, are we giving the right appointment, through to what was the communication like, to the point where we actually deliver the repair and then the satisfaction of the repair. So we can course correct throughout that journey to make sure we get it right for the customer. At the moment, we're just taking it from that completed repair. So it's about absolutely focusing it down, and as Lisa said, is bringing ourselves closer to the customer. So it's also looking at emergency repairs. At the moment, we've got 2 categories, emergency and routine repair, which is an appointment, but we're bringing in the urgent repair because we have absolutely seen that demand. To a lot of our repairs that are routine, we've only got a category to move them to emergency, but they're not necessarily those emergency repairs that we need to be there that day. So we're creating inputting our urgent category, which will pick up something that can't wait 28 days to deliver, but we need to get there a bit sooner. And so that's all about our tailoring for our customer and making sure that we're tailoring to the vulnerabilities within the customers and the stock that we operate in. And that all goes through into complex repairs and the journey of making sure that we're mapping and monitoring that process and making sure that we're keeping updated with customers all the way through. So during the course of this summer, we'll be moving through that operating model changes, and we hope to be aligned by November this year and then embedding the service going forward. But absolutely the focus is on making sure it's right for the customer. Thank you. And over to Steve.
Hi, thank you very much. Yes, Steve Eves. Thank you for the invite today. I just want to kind of talk a little bit about a few things all in the world of assets. So there is a housing crisis, as many of you will know. Some of your children or grandchildren even may be struggling to get onto the housing market. In terms of development, we are trying to do our bit. And although it might have been a quiet past 12 months in terms of the number of homes completed, we've got a couple of schemes starting in a matter of weeks that are going to provide much needed social rent homes as well as shared ownership homes. So we're very proud to be providing new affordable homes for people in Malvern, and we think that's a really key thing. That's something that Platform is very proud to do. But we don't just provide lots of new homes. We also invest an awful lot of money into our existing homes. And there's a slide up here, and it just shows some of the areas where we spent over £6 million in the past 12 months looking after our homes in Malvern. And as you can see, there's hundreds of kitchens, hundreds of bathrooms, all sorts of work taking place, and it just helps keep our homes in a nice condition for the residents living in them. Each year we increase our investment, so year on year on year, every year we increase our investment. So it's a never-ending cycle of works that take place. I'll just move on to the next slide. I just want to talk a bit about our energy, really. So one of the government's key targets is to have all of our homes up to what's called EPCC by 2030. Now, what that means is that, generally speaking, a C rated is considered to be a nice, satisfactory, warm level. And if you're in fuel poverty and you're spending a lot of money on heating your home, a C rating really helps reduce the costs of heating your home. And you can see here, we actually in Malvern itself, compared to the national average, we're doing really quite well. So there are just over 20% of properties that are below EPCC. So we've got a lot of work to do, but that means there's nearly 80% of homes that meet the government's target already. So we've got a plan, and we are moving towards getting all our homes up to that warm standard by 2030. But we have a big retrofit programme to help us do that as well at the same time. So we've been one of the leaders in a Midlands consortium to retrofit our homes to make them really energy efficient. And you can see in Malvern itself, we've got about 114 homes that we've got in our what's called the Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund programme. So what that means is those homes are having all sorts of fancy upgrades. So it could be photovoltaic panels on the roofs to convert sunlight to electricity. It could be air source heat pumps that sucks the kind of cold air and takes the warmth out of it to help create warmth in your home instead if you've not got gas. All those great things are happening to our homes at the moment, but it doesn't just stop there, because we've bid again for another 2,000 homes as part of the third wave of that programme. So we've got a lot of plans to retrofit our homes, and actually we are outperforming the national average in terms of energy efficiency for our homes at the moment. Those are just some of the key things I wanted to talk about. We are very focused in terms of dealing with damp and mould and condensation. We had about a dozen cases reported to us over the past 6 months or so, and we've set up a team, and all they do is go out and they resolve damp, mould, condensation cases. So we're generally speaking, we are down to about last month about 5 days to go out and sort out mould and condensation in people's homes. And we are very, very aware that our Wobbs law is a key driver for actually reducing damp and mould and condensation. And so we're trying all sorts of new technology to help us monitor homes where there's damp and mould and condensation. We're trying new materials as well. So there's a lot of things happening at Platform at the moment. Just wanted to reassure you, it's not just about building new homes, it's about keeping our existing homes in good condition and constantly investing in them at the same time. And final slide here is about key contacts. So you'll have this in your packs, and as you can see, we just want to share with you some of the key contacts, key phone numbers, key emails. So I'm not going to kind of go through this. Obviously, a lot of you will know Claire already, so Claire's fantastic, and obviously she's got a great team behind her, and these are some of the key contacts here, and that's it, I think. So thank you very much. I don't know if there's any questions you'd like to ask.
David Harrison first.
Thank you. About 3 or 4 questions. Are we going to get a copy of these slides? Thank you. I notice you put a very good table on of what you've done this year over the last 12 months up till March, back about 5 slides, I think. Have you got the comparison for last year?
What slide was that in particular, please?
Well, if you run back, I can tell you. I can't tell you what it's called because you went through pretty quick. Keep going. I'll tell you when to stop.
Tell me when to start.
That one. Both of those two.
Yeah, the repairs ones. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll let Mark answer that.
Yeah. Sorry, what was the question? I thought the question was directed towards. Sorry, could you repeat the question for me?
Certainly. Have you got the corresponding numbers for the previous year?
Yes, yeah, we can provide those. That's not a problem at all.
Thank you.
I thought you said you had a few questions.
Well, I've got some more, but they're not quite as important. The walkabouts that you do, I've been to a couple, are very good. And as a councillor, it's important that we get there. But to be told on a Friday that there's one on a Monday is not the best. You know, we need to know. We can't just sort of drop everything and what have you. So, you know, sort of thing. I'm sure that, you know, you can give 2 or 3 weeks notice for those.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about that. We'll make sure that that doesn't happen again. We'll give you as much notice as we can. They are also on our website if people do want to have a look. If you can access that, you can see the website for the dates and the locations and the times.
Okay, David.
Yeah, thanks.
Barbara.
Yeah, I've got about 3 other questions as well. But as far as your walkabouts are concerned, I'm meeting Tory yeomans up at in Martley, and my meeting is actually booked for the 17th of July. So that's quite a good lead on that. And is Tory? I do know actually. But Tori is actually the liaison officer for that area. Is that correct? And what area will she cover? I mean, does she cover the rurals? That's what I wanted to know.
Yes, she's a neighbourhood officer for that particular area. We can provide you with information as to exactly what areas she's responsible for, if that would be helpful. And we can get Tori to contact you beforehand for a conversation, just to get connected and get to know what her work is in more detail, so you've got that key contact.
Excellent. I think that's a brilliant idea, you know, to actually have somebody like that. The other thing I wanted to ask, how many customers have you got in Worcester and Malvern Hills? In Malvern Hills in particular? And percentage-wise, how many of those are allocated out in the rural areas?
I think we'd have to come back and confirm that, certainly regarding allocations, because we're purely, apart from any new homes, our relets of our existing homes are purely driven by our existing customers giving notice or leaving for whatever reason. But we can provide you with that information if you want to see that for your specific area or general, across Malvern in general.
General. General, but also in the rural areas
The rural
as well,
areas,
please,
yes,
yeah.
of course.
And Steve talked about affordable homes in Malvern that you wanted to produce. I'm going to have a glass of water a minute. That you're going to want to produce more but you said Malvern. Do you mean the Malverns?
I do, yes. Yeah, apologies, yeah. Platform is, you know, always keen to look at new developments. We've got a significant and strong development programme. So if there are opportunities, we're always on the lookout for those. And we're also aware that developments can take quite a long time. They've got long lead-in periods. So, yeah, we've got a team that focus in on that, yep.
Yeah, so however small in the rural areas, because they're not going to be big developments in the rural areas. So are you happy to actually produce reasonably smallish, say 10, 20 houses at the most?
Yeah, always happy to consider opportunities. Sometimes when they become really small, it you know, it's a struggle to make them work financially. But yeah, 10 or 20 homes, if you've got schemes like that, please do come to us, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
I would like to add that a particular interest of Elizabeth Frood, our CEO, is rural housing and the shortage of rural housing for people, and also for, you know, young people to get on the housing ladder through shared ownership as well within rural communities. It's a real issue across a lot of our geography, so please be assured that it's something that's high up on our agenda.
Yeah, because it does rather concern me, because, I mean, my ward's Martley, so sorry for being, you know, like the parochial, but, you know, but that's it. there's development in Martley where there's affordable houses, which is actually on the market, but they're being marketed at about £320,000, and these are small affordable houses, and it's not affordable. And this is something that I feel isn't being addressed correctly out in the raw area. So, you know, I would like to know really what you're going to do to actually address affordable houses, which are affordable, not some like the developer coming in and building quite small 2-bedroom houses and charging £320,000 for them.
We will definitely take that away as an action, and we'll ask our Director of Land to speak with you about those opportunities and explain some of the processes really of how we can approve developments. But we are committed to rural housing, and we appreciate that sometimes means very small amounts of homes, but actually they'll add a huge amount of value to the communities in which they're built.
I was just going to add that we've got a range of different kinds of affordable homes. So we have social rent homes. So social rent tends to be approximately 60% of a market rent level. We've got affordable rent, which tends to be 80% of a market rent level. We have rent to buy, which means that you can rent your homes for several years, save up your deposit, and then you can actually buy through, you know, a share in your home. And we also have shared ownership. So if you've got a £320,000 home, you can afford a 10% mortgage. You could buy your home with a 10% mortgage. So you could buy a £32,000 share in that home and a rent on the remainder of that home. Or you could buy a much bigger share if you have more money. So there's a range of different kinds of affordable homes that we can help people with. It is a real challenge at the moment. It's not just a challenge for people wanting to live locally. It's a challenge for us to develop affordable homes as well when land and construction prices are so expensive at the same time.
So when you're talking about bringing affordable housing into fruition in the rural areas, are you talking about exceptional sites, or are you prepared to do deals with like the developers with larger sites, which is going to make it worthwhile to them, but also by keeping the price down as far as producing these homes?
We do both, actually. So exception sites are sites that we consider. They tend to be sites of less than 10 homes usually. But we also do sites with big developers, small and medium-sized developers as well at the same time. So, you know, if there's a field there and somebody's developing 100, 200 homes, fantastic. You know, we'll work alongside them. If it's a developer doing a smaller exception site, then we've got targets to meet, and we'll also consider those as well. But we tend to do a bit of everything, really, I think.
Councillor Rain, John?
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. Lots of data there, which I could ask an awful lot of questions about. Really. There's lots of interesting things there. The one that I would like to mention was a retrofit program. I think it was about 2 or 3 slides from where we are. Retrofit was the word. Oh, the other way, I would think. Yeah. And I suppose the question that was in my mind, looking at that, coming soon, maybe. Yeah, you are. Well done. Yeah. You know, immediately the question arose in my mind as what drives the decision to do these retrofits? You know, sort of, is it platform that is actively, you know, looking and thinking about the properties that it's got and what hasn't got insulation and what hasn't had cavity wall attention and so on, and who might have an air source heat pumps? Or is it the tenants that are actually contacting you and saying, hey, I've got a roof that's got no insulation in it, please, can you do something about it?
Yes, we've got quite a quite a sophisticated way to decide who gets retrofitted and what works happens to their properties. So we've been out and we've done to about 85% of our homes. We've done EPC assessments. Those are energy performance certificate assessments. So we've got a pretty robust view. Of nearly all of our properties of how well they perform. Now we have a bit of software that we use, and it models all of those EPC assessments, and that software tells us that actually to get those properties up to a C rating, you need to do, could be an air source heat pump, or it could be solar photovoltaic, or it could be as simple as top up the loft insulation and install LED lights. Right. So we tend to do that, but we also apply a bit of common sense. So if we're going down a street and there's already one or two properties there that might already be EPC C or higher, but we're going down that street and we're doing solid wall insulation, we're not going to miss out those one or two properties. We're going to do the entire street. So there's a bit of that. We also recognise there's a bit of sophisticated intelligence as well. So we look at, actually, they've got heating systems that are 30 years old. And so, there are properties in the next street whose heating systems are 15 years old. Well, we're going to do the older ones first. So there's a whole range of indicators. We also have this other thing. The government have got a methodology for how you retrofit homes, and it's called PAS 2035. And that if you follow that methodology, hopefully you will also avoid a lot of the pitfalls that have happened in the past about condensation building up in homes, about damp and mould and all those kinds of things. So there's a lot of that goes on actually. Yeah.
And just a sort of rider to that, C's not brilliant, is it? It's is that all you can go to, or are there some programs of yours that are actually endeavouring to hit B?
If it's a brand new home, we use a slightly more detailed methodology. If it's a brand new home, we use SAP ratings, and each year the SAP ratings go up a point. So I think this year it might be 85 or 86, which is in essence a kind of a mid B rating for energy. For existing homes, we've got, I think as you can see, about 20% of the homes are below C rating. So our task is to get those ones up to C first, and we're waiting to hear about the government. The government have kind of minimum energy efficiency standards, which essentially means that C rating is the target to get to. So that's our driver first. It's quite possible, that net zero carbon, that might change in years to come. It might go higher. It might go the other way. I was listening to something on the radio the other day, and but at the moment we are absolutely driven to get into that C target. There are some homes do get higher than C ratings, but we only get funding, government grant funding, to get homes to a C rating. So that's kind of the initial driver.
Councillor Wilde.
Sorry, I was absorbed in your response there. First of all, on the walkabout, I want to say thank you because it was a very useful exercise for me to go with your colleagues. And something I represent Wells, Welland and Castle Morton ward, and something that other councillors hadn't managed to achieve was to get a road resurfaced, which had not been finished off, and your officer finished it and got it done, so thank you very much for that. I was very impressed with that. However, quite a lot of complaints come to me about platform, and I've seen for myself some of the things, and I've heard some of the things that some of your property care people have said, and it might be just the 10% of people who are not satisfied, but they seem to have fallen in my inbox. So I've seen examples of mould. I've seen examples of jobs not being finished properly, or problems with something. A property care person comes and causes a flood. I've heard one of your property care people say that it didn't matter about the standard of work because they were only people who didn't deserve it. So I've found this very disturbing. I have been one of the members who's been asking for you to come because I think everybody deserves a good home. And one of the latest things that I've heard is somebody who didn't have hot water was told in February that they had to wait until May. And they did in fact come in April, but I still think that was unacceptable because that was a young family. So although, you know, I'm really pleased to hear a lot of things, there are still an awful lot of things that you need to be doing, and I think I'm looking at Mark here. And, you know, I think everybody deserves a good home, and they don't need they've got difficulties as it is with their lives, a lot of your customers, and they don't need to be trying to get in touch, going through citizens' advice, trying to contact a counsellor when they can't contact you. And I find that they're vulnerable, some of them are vulnerable people, and I just find they don't need that kind of stress. So hopefully you'll take that away with you. So it's not a question, it's a complaint really.
Well, thank you for raising that first, and absolutely one of the key messages I want to get across is that is not our values. Some of the statements that you have made today don't meet the values of our organisation, and we spend an awful lot of time embedding that with our team. Clearly we haven't done well with those particular cases, and I would be really interested to find out if there's any specific names and things that we can go back onto, because absolutely that is not the reflection of the service we want to deliver. Absolutely, our customers are the forefront of our business, and we want to make sure it's right, and everyone has a right to a decent home and a decent service. Yes.
Right. I'll want to have a chat afterwards as well.
I'd just like to come in there as well and say, you know, any specific incidents that you have, then particularly around the mention regarding the hot water, that's absolutely not acceptable, and it's not within our repairs timescale. So we do need to know about that one so we can check that out. So we'll be in touch with you if that's okay.
Is it all right if I just want to come back on the damp and mould, which I'm really concerned about as well. Our Web's Law is absolutely at the forward, you know, thinking of everything that we're doing at the moment. So poor little Awa Bishak, who died due to damp and mould in his home, we set about 6 months ago, we set up a special team, a HIT team, and that's all they do. And we've reduced our response to damp and mould and condensation from about 50 days to about 5 days now. If we don't always get it right, you know, and I'm absolutely, if you've got those examples, I really want to get to the bottom of that, so we can sort that out, because we've completely changed the way that we work when it comes to damp and mould and condensation, and I really want to kind of make sure that we don't have the kind of problems that have been happening.
Yeah, I would say things have improved, because I remember the time when I had to kind of get somebody rehoused where water was actually coming through the floor, if I remember rightly. But I have got a couple of examples, very much like Christine, which I need to speak to you about afterwards. One thing about mould, can I just ask a basic question? Do you ever consider having your services actually included in the rent? I mean, or do people all pay for their own services in terms of heating, water, etc., etc.? Do you ever think about doing an inclusive rental system?
We do have some of our schemes which do have district heating and water. They're very, very few and far between. But no, our homes are very much as you would, you know, imagine for a private rented customer, or if you were a homeowner or shared owner, that you're responsible for your usage and paying your bills.
The reason why I ask is that I was a landlord for 30 years, and as soon as I actually put the heating and the electricity and everything into the cost of the rent and spread it amongst the tenants properly, there was never any mould. The reason why there's mould is because people don't spend the money on the heating of the house. And as you've got now houses which have very poor ventilation because they are energy efficient, if you don't have the energy in them, they get mouldier than the ones where the wind used to come through. So to some degree, I'm surprised there isn't a bit more of a government initiative to have inclusive rents to make sure that nobody scrimps on those very basic things. It's just an idea.
I think one of the things that we find is that whether you've got an inclusive rent or whether you haven't, our customers are really struggling financially, and that's where our wellbeing fund comes in. I think what we'd find is that where we do have, you know, we'd have to differentiate between services and utility costs, for example, within the rent. But it's an interesting idea. It's not one that I'm familiar with at all. I've not heard of that at all within the sector in all the 35 years plus that I've been in, but that may be something that that does get discussed and legislated for.
It actually comes from the student rental market, because of course students were terrible with that. You know, kind of as a group coming in, trying to divide it amongst people, arguing about how much somebody had used, whatever. But collectively, then that takes all of the pressure out of the system altogether. And because you are such a huge organisation, you can get some really good deals out of the utility providers, which would save people a fortune. It's just so basic. I'm amazed nobody's done it, really. You know, it's not your fault. I'm not suggesting. I'm just thinking government. Just one other thing. The other thing that I've noticed is that there are sites where you could actually build a new block within an area of social housing and then move people out of the old block that's next to it, do that then up, and then have literally a leapfrogging system and move people from old to new and renew as you go along. Has anybody thought about that as a system as well?
I think where you're going to do regeneration, for example, then yes, that does happen, but that's done usually on a fairly large scale. But yes, it would be classed as regeneration, where you tend to move people into a place whilst you regenerate an area and then perhaps move them back. And we have done that historically.
I was thinking in areas, urban areas, that would increase the density as well, because obviously you'd have that new block as well, but it gives you a chance to be able to do that. It's just a thought. Last but not least, Elgar Avenue, can you renumber every single house there, because it is a nightmare finding your way around. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. If I can just go back to a couple of points. Barbara touched on the properties that may or may not be taken up by platform. And I wondered if you were able to share with us the criteria that you would employ for not taking on new builds in a particular area. Would it be economics? Would it be the number of them, remoteness of the locations, or whatever? I think it would help us as councillors to know when a housing association would actually take on premises and when they would be less likely to take on premises. In other words, building affordable housing where there isn't a market. Are you able to comment on that, please? Thank you.
There is quite a complex methodology around making sure that schemes are financially viable. I think the best thing for me to do is to arrange for a briefing paper to come out to you from our development team, so that you can understand some of the challenges that we have around making those opportunities work for us, rather than going through quite complex a level of information today, if that's okay. And then you can come back with any questions you've got from that. So we'll take that as an action.
Yeah, thanks ever so much for that. That would be very helpful, I think. The other thing that occurred to me as we went through, I started to be surprised by the level of maintenance and work, and I immediately wondered what the age profile of your housing was in this area compared to the general area that you are operating in, and how that has changed over time. I mean, it looks like, from what we're seeing here, you have a reasonable proportion of older premises. It would be interesting to see what that is and what it was. In other words, how it's moving over time. I don't expect you to comment on that now or present data because you won't have it, but I think it would be handy to have. Thank you.
I can certainly come back to you on that. We have got the age profile of all the homes in the Malverns, so we have got that. And yeah, I think it will be interesting just to see how that's changed over the years.
John. Yes, I think that just coming on to that particular point is something I had thought about. I'm glad Andrew asked it. Is the capital expenditure programme really, which is all the replacement issues. So you've got capital expenditure on kitchens, how, when do you write them off, when do they have to be done? Then there's capital expenditure on upgrades to standards themselves. So it would be nice to know in the data, I think that you said you're going to provide, could you break it down into those elements, the different elements of capital expenditure for the upgrades, for the replacements? And another point that I was thinking about was in terms of retrofit things, was you have, I'm going to that, all right. You had air source heat pumps, you had PVs, you've also got heating, you've got these pipes on the roof as well, which is how you've got solar heating of hot water. And I was wondering, and I'm not sure if the hot water heat pumps are actually on your data there. Doesn't look specifically as if they are. So you've got air source heat pumps, you've got houses in particular areas where maybe PV is not suitable or less suitable, and there's therefore a decision-making process. And you've got also, I think you had plumbing as one of the major faults that you've got. So if you've got things like air source heat pumps and you're heating water, is there any relationship to these technologies to the types of problems that you're actually having to face? Is there any link in there, or is there any data or any understanding what that link might be? I'm not saying, I've heard some people say air source heat pumps can be a problem in terms of leakage and so on. And I wonder if you've got any experience in that area that would sort of corroborate that or otherwise. And also, what would you, if you've got any experience with hot water piping or solar heating of hot water, is there any relationship there to how robust they are and how sustainable those methods are?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I think it depends on your property, and it depends on what kind of retrofit measures take place to that property as to how successful things like air source heat pumps are. Generally speaking, if you've got a coal fire or an oil heating system, air source heat pumps will always be cheaper and will always make your home more comfortable, generally speaking. If you've already got a fairly efficient gas boiler that's broken down, air source heat pumps will be potentially a bit more expensive to use. But if you also combine them with solar photovoltaic, which converts sunlight into electricity, then you'll still find that air source heat pumps work out cheaper. They tend to be the modern equipment compared to what was installed 10 or 15 years ago is a lot more robust, a lot more reliable, and feedback is generally positive. Occasionally somebody really does not want to use them, but usually it's positive. In terms of leaks, air source heat pumps are no different from a kind of any other heating system really. So generally speaking, they work quite well.
I think just to add to what Steve's point was there, they're no different than the gas systems that we operate at the moment. We're not seeing a higher volume of repairs in those areas in relation to the renewable technologies. I think the one key area, as Steve picked up before, is that fabric first approach, that air source heat pump might not be suitable for every property unless you get the fabric of the property up to a certain level first, and then it will work. So that's why you see them much more prevalent in new builds, purely because of the fabric first and the insulation values of those properties. So I don't see, and the reference to the plumbing is, that's just the reality of a repair service. Plumbing is one of the largest areas because of leaks from the taps, bathroom replacements, sink replacements, all of that we just see across one of our core areas. So like electrical and like carpentry, it's the things that just fail more often because there's much more of them, and it's the vast majority of the house. But what we are seeing now is obviously much more of the whole fabric of the building, where we've done programs of kitchen bathroom replacements, which has replaced the bathroom, replaced the kitchen, but now we're starting to see much more, actually we need to upgrade the woodwork in the property, more plaster, upgrading the plaster, so the actual fabric of the building is coming to the end of its life. So those will be the programs we'll be looking at for the future.
Cynthia.
Yes, what's your view on the fact that we're supposed to be doing away with gas boilers, aren't we? Are you going to have a programme of replacing them, and will you replace them mainly with electric, or will it be the air source heat pumps?
Yeah, so we have got a plan to phase out gas. If it's a brand new property, so last year we built about 1,500 homes. Not a single home had a gas boiler installed. So we've got a plan to phase out gas for brand new homes, because otherwise we'll be back there in 10 years' time, and we'll have to change all the kit in the house at that point in time. With existing homes, the government are considering targets to phase out gas boilers. There've been talk about changing dates. There've been talk about exemptions. It's not 100% set in stone at the moment. So we use a whole variety of different technologies instead of gas. So you can have very, very efficient storage heaters in apartments now. Air source heat pumps are there. There's a range of different kind of infrared electric heaters, all sorts of stuff really. So, but we do have a plan to get off gas. But there are just some homes that will probably have to wait until the last minute, until those boilers have packed up and died. The thing about air source heat pumps is they are incredibly expensive compared to a gas boiler. A gas boiler, generally speaking, you can go online and you can have one installed a few days later for several £1,000s. But if you want to have an air source heat pump installed, you'll be lucky to get that installed for maybe £10,000 to £20,000. And that's the challenge. So we have to use our money wisely, and the homes that are really, really, got a poor energy efficiency, that's our focus at the moment. That's where the intelligent equipment, the air source heat pumps, is going.
I think just to add to that as well, as boilers fail, and boilers will fail along the way, we will do that assessment of that property at that point, just to make sure, actually, is it another gas boiler that needs to go? Or if it's an oil-fed system, we would look at air source as an alternative to move away from oil. So we will obviously, our focus is to move away from oil, but we'll make those assessments as we go through to make sure we're making the right decision for the customer.
Thank you. Just on one point about the presentation, there was outcomes for repairs. It said unknown outcomes, not always a very good title for a thing. I know the 90% covered that, but I was just going to point out unknown outcome for about 25% of it. Yeah, I didn't think that was cool, but never mind.
It hasn't been classified.
I know. Right, okay. Thank you very much. That was very, very informative, very useful, and thank you for all the questions as well. That was very, very good. Brilliant. And we will speak to you individually about, because it's not fair to bring confidential information in front of public anyway.
No, please do get in touch with us about
Yeah.
specifics.
Thank you very much for coming. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Right, we'll go on to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee draft annual report. Has everybody had a chance to have a look at it? Are we reasonably happy that we can agree that and send it to council? Because I thought it was fairly okay. Is that okay? Brilliant. That's item 8. And the only other 2 bits and pieces are the council's forward plan to note. It's very noted, that one. Always noted. And then the Overview and Scrutiny Work Programme. Can I just say that if you have items that you would want to include, please just email me and we will then add those to the list. And Ali will find time for everything because she's brilliant. All right, thank you very much. I think that is it. Has anybody got anything else they'd like to bring up? I thought that was very good. Thank you very much for coming, everybody, and we'll call a halt to it at that. Brilliant.
Dates of next meetings?
Oh, date of next meeting is? It's after the AGM, so I will let you know. I thought we had it scheduled, but never mind. Wasn't it June? Yeah, which is, we haven't agreed a date. Oh, flipping heck. I will let you know, David, and everybody else. That was a good point.